It's a yellow spot. I put this in here. The problem with that is some of those varieties are pretty poor for other things. Like Sunbex is probably one of the better ones. H45 is very good for yellow spot resistance, but then you'll be managing it for stripe rust. Sunbex, I think it's dead. I'd never grow Sunbex. It's an absolute sucker for nematodes. Fungicides are a poor last resort for yellow spot, and we'll go into why that is, okay? So there's a reason behind all this why we don't get the same job out of fungicides for yellow spot as we do with our stripe rust. When we spray with stripe rust, we kill the infection. We kill off the spores, and it has to get successive cycles again to build up. That doesn't happen with yellow spot. As I said, it's a necrotroph. Yellow toxin production kills the cells dry off, and we get that tan colour. And that's where you get secondary sporulation. Okay, always got a yellow margin, then dying brown tissue behind. You're lucky around here. Chris has both days has brought in the right thing, but probably is the most misdiagnosed disease. And I get sampled. And you're more than welcome to use it. We run a free diagnostic service out of Tamworth. It's not free in that your levies actually pay for it, so feel free to send stuff over. But yeah, this is probably the one I get sent samples year after year. The agronomist has told me I've got yellow spot, I've got to spray it with a fungicide. I reckon about 80% of the time it's not. Okay, and this is why we had a bit of a push on. Everywhere else this disease is called tan spot. So they focus on the dead tissue. Okay, I think our use of the word yellow spot, we've got a bit of a tendency, anything yellow, well it's got to be yellow spot, doesn't matter if it's not even a spot, and we'll just go spray it. So we'll go into that. Quickly the cycle, so it's got these pseudothecia they're called on the stubble. They're like little volcanoes, they get wet, they expel spores under pressure, the ascospores under pressure. They only shoot them 10 millimetres, it's been measured, I don't know who did that, but someone sat there and was detailed enough to that. So they're not going big distance up, that's why you get the lower leaves get infected. Okay, once you get the lower leaves infected, you get secondary cycling and you get conidia produced. Okay, which are a bigger structure, heavier structure, so they can actually blow distances in up to 100 metres. Whereas these guys are really restricted because they're so light and they stay in the canopy. Wide temperature range, only need 6 hours of free moisture, doesn't have to be rain, that can be dews. Quite a quick cycle, so from when a spore lands on a leaf to when you'll see the little pinprick of the infection, the browning with a bit of yellow, only 4 to 7 days. The key point I want to make here, but it's actually repeated rain events that, first of all, you need moisture to get the initial infections, then to get the conidia produced on the old lesions. It's a cycle where it's gradually going up the canopy. It doesn't jump straight up the canopy. Okay, so it's really a function of really wet years, 1998, 2010, where our big yellow spot years. We can see those early infections most years, but they don't ever come to anything. Okay, so you need to keep that in perspective. And we'll talk about, we probably didn't do it yesterday, but Glad Christmas here is prompted around the perfect spray time. And I'll give you, I don't know the perfect spray time, but I'll give you my opinion based on what I know about the disease cycle and what's going on. I think we can sort of pick when it's going to be the best. Okay, key issue with fungicides. They all move in the xylem, which is the water flow tissue in the plant, okay? You've got xylem and phloem. Phloem go both ways, so they tend to move the nutrients. Xylem only moves water. So where the fungicide hits in a droplet, it can enter the leaf there and move to the tip of the leaf. It can never go back down. So when you get new leaves emerged, and you've sprayed, then you get leaves emerge after that, you can't get translocational movement of the fungicide back out into the new leaves. Because it can only move to the tip of the ones that were sprayed that time. And that's important. It also becomes important when you think of this disease being a necrotroph and killing cells. The second it kills cells, there's no xylem activity. So you can't get fungicide into dead tissue. I get asked this every year, why don't we just go spray our stubble for crown rot? You can do it, it won't do anything because it won't get uptake. There's no mechanism for it to get into then move through the stubble. So often we want to spray this really early, that mid-tilling spray, chuck it in with our broadleaf spray. Key issue there, the key yielding leaves aren't out. Okay, so your top 3 leaves aren't out at that stage. So in terms of protecting those, you're not going to have any effect. The other thing, this is some Canadian work. just showing that the actual release of those initial ascospores happens throughout the season. It's not just early. So 2 different years, look at the blue. So you're getting those released up around that second node stage and right through the season. So you can constantly get infected off the stubble in the paddock. The upfront measures just don't work. They haven't found one. Hopefully that will become. There is one we'll talk about very briefly for net watch in barley. There's a product out of BASF, Sestiva, which Nick Poole, who's an independent person, this isn't BASF data, but Nick Poole is down south done independent stuff, is very effective against early infections with net watch. But they know and everyone else knows it does nothing for yellow spot. Same family of pathogen, but a different species. So really strange that it does one, it does absolutely nothing against another. And BASF are very upfront that it does nothing for yellow spot too. Okay, I haven't put this up, but the big issue with yellow spot too is none of the products have curative activity. So once the infection's there, it can't kill off an established infection. Anyone used to spraying for ascochyta in chickpeas? Exactly the same situation. There's no curative activity against ascochyta in chickpeas. So when do all your sprays go on there? In front of a rain event. When do you do your yellow spot sprays? We've never thought about it. Okay, but we know, so there's some really good, Nick Poole again, is if you want to follow someone doing good fungicide stuff, Nick Poole, who's with FAR, which is a New Zealand company, but they've got an Australian arm here, does some very good detailed work. Okay, so yeah, when you've got no curative activity, and you can't get into dead tissue, when we should be applying it? I think we need to target our applications before the rain event, which is going to be our infection event, because we can't kill it off. You never kill the infection, so you can't get into the dead tissue. So you certainly reduce the production of conidia when you spray on the dead tissue, but you don't totally stop it. And once the fungicide wears off, it's back on, and you're back into full production of spores if you've got the moisture, and you can keep advancing up the plant. And also the protectant properties vary. So we're used to using mainly propiconazole til and tebuconazole, which is follicule. Yep, they work, give you about 3 weeks protection. The only one that gives you longer protection is Amistar, which will probably give you 4 weeks. Very expensive, or very expensive, more expensive, and really whether that length of protection is worth the extra money. The other issue with Amistar here, which is great, it's a resistance management thing. It's got another active in it, which is the Amistar Extra. The extra component in Tilt and the extra component in Amistar is ciproconazole. Ciproconazole is purely a rust product. It is quick moving through the leaf, so it'll move a lot quicker from where it hits a leaf to the tip than the other products. It's a rapid rust clean out product. Does nothing against yellow spot. Oops. Okay, so just quickly on timing for yellow spot. My take on timing for yellow spot is what we're going to do is buy ourselves time if we're in a conducive year. It's going to be targeted to those really wet years. So the timing really is around that growth stage 30, 32, before the plant starts to elongate. If you get it after that, what you do when it elongates and you've got infection on the leaves, you're actually taking infected leaves up the canopy. You're not creating as big a barrier. So my critical thing, if you're really worried about it, is that timing now. You actually limit the leaves as they elongate. You create more of a gap. You need successive rainfall events then to get up onto the top leaves. Is my take on it. So you buy yourself more time. So what you're doing is you're really forcing the climate to be super conducive before you're losing those leaves. And go in front of a rain event.
Is a time machine better pushing a bit of that stubble away than this machine as far as disease goes?
Won't make a difference for yellow spot because the spores are on the stubble. Yes, certainly in terms of crown rot. So Andrew Verrill, who's over at Tamworth, did that and got a slightly better excavation of the furrow and moving crown rot. So you need contact between stubble that's got the crown rot fungus in it and the plant to initiate infection. So we found times where cultivating or moving stubble out of the furrow a bit better. If you look at, and this is where I think where some of our research is going to go, and there's certainly been planted with down in South Australia, a guy called Al Mackay, who actually runs that DNA test. They're using little scoop in front of the disc, and then got wings, and they're actually looking at soil throw. They're doing it for Rhizoctonia. So Rhizoctonia is a very shallow soil pathogen, raises that hyphal network. They're actually using that to move the inoculum out of that furrow and get it that way. And we're going to play with it for crown on. So yeah, certainly if you can move that stubble, limit that contact, then yeah, certainly can have an effect. So why they got the wings on it is actually, so then you've got the two adjacent rows thrown against each other and keeping it from falling back into the furrow. But yeah, that certainly is potentially a way to limit it. But then you're going to have to be in a stubble retain system. So if you already worked it in, forget about it. You won't move those fragments out.
Standing up and then you just
Yeah.
sewing with them.
Yeah. And that's the thing, that is the big weakness of crown on. It needs contact. So the reason why it's a very thin-walled hyphae, which so it infects through cottony growth. It comes out of the stubble. It needs to be, Dave Backhouse, a guy up at uni did it. I don't do this detail stuff. But even 2 millimetres, because it's such a thin-walled cottony structure, it gets chomped by other things really quick, by bacteria, other things. So it actually needs physical contact to protect it while it's infecting the plant.
So when you at harvest, if you went in and chopped all your stubble up, you're probably not doing yourself a lot of good when it comes to diseases?
Depends on the height. So generally at harvest it's only up 1 or 2 nodes. And what you can get is it'll grow up to the cut height if you've got moisture over that summer period. But it won't move around, it'll only be the ones that's already infected. It can colonise that tissue. So it's a saprophyte, which means it just grows on the carbon in the stubble. And it's also a pathogen. So when we go into that summer period, it can become just a saprophyte. And it can grow up. So yeah, certainly if you set your header lower, you're generally not blowing inoculum out the back. The issue we've never looked into is really our harvest height around chickpeas.
I'm sort of talking after you harvest, come back and just chop it off at ground level, just mash it all up.
Yeah.
And whether that would be a beneficial for your disease or a hindrance or what, I'm not sure.
Never a clear answer. Could be really good. Could be really bad. Depends on whether it breaks down. So it depends on your moisture. So if you go and so breaking up into smaller bits, creating that mat, you'll maintain moisture. If you get a rainfall event, you'll drive your decomposition. So if you get the moisture, it could be really great. But if you don't, what you've done is you've taken that and spread it more evenly across your paddock. When we do all our crown knot work, we deliberately go in and mulch just before we sow. So we take our stubble that's got inoculum in it, we mulch it, spread it so we get even infection. Which is potentially what you can do if you don't get the breakdown over that summer period. But yeah, it could be.
It's all confusing.
There's no answers. If you knew you were going to get reliability of rainfall to get the decomposition to happen, it would be brilliant. And you get some mulching effect of doing that stubble. But yeah, I don't have an issue with it. But what you're going to run into every now and then is you're going to go, shit, I wish I hadn't done that. Because you've gone and spread the inoculum and it didn't break down.
Like we had the Kelly chains and they went off there, and now the speed tillers. And
the bigger issue I got with Kelly, the bigger issue I got with that cultivation is you're actually planing the crown knot fungus's hand. You're actually putting your inoculum into the soil below ground, which are the main infection sites. So the main infection is the coleoptile, which then becomes, as the plant ages, becomes a subgranulate, and the crown tissue. So the second you've gone and put that inoculum into that zone, you've given contact of the fungus to your plant. Whereas where you left it alone, and particularly even if you just offset sowing, you're limiting the ability of the plant to contact that. So it's all about the amount of inoculum that ends up down in the furrow in that sowing process is the issue. So and that's the bigger issue I've got with that. But the problem is we're going to be looking into some of these things. If we get driven by herbicide resistance in our weeds, then these things are all back on the table. I think there's things there's benefits and there's downsides to everything. Yes, my wife tells me.
So if you had, just to throw that, confuse that a bit more, if you had
this is great.
an autumn burn,
yep,
not a fence post burner, but like nice cool burn, you just took the top of the stubble off, and then you interrode between those crowns. Would that be probably
best result we ever got? We got in a decent crown knot load, we've got a 92% reduction in the percentage of plants that got infected by a late burn in a row sow. As long as you can. And this is the other thing too, so we've been talking about in a row sowing and people go, oh yeah, but my plant wanders and end up back on the row occasionally and that sort of thing. It's really the glass half full or anything. Even if you're off it, that's still less contact. We saw it certainly in the Central West farming systems trial, the one at Ningen there last year, You could see it in there. So they went back over a grower's paddock. Unfortunately, the Central West farming system sowed in the same direction as the previous crop rows, and where they had their rows contacting the grower's old cereal rows, you could see the crown on. The actual MBT trial was sown at right angles to the previous sowing angle, and then it was really a lot less crown on because it wasn't contacting that inoculum as much. It was really when it across to cross, and that's some of the things they're talking about over in WA is what they call it crosshatch sowing, and yeah, just trying to limit it that way.
If you Google Pro Tracker, that might be the next thing we can get onto. Pro Tracker is a hitch steering that now ties in with your Green Star or your 750, so that'd be cheap, I reckon.
But the thing too, and this is Andrew Verrill, he's a researcher at Tamworth, and if you can do that in-row sowing, I think that's going to be a big thing. And then it's about, the work he's taken it further is it's about where you put your break crop row in relation to your wheat row. So what he's shown he did show in chickpeas canola is you sow your break crop row in between your cereal row, and then your next wheat row comes back over your break crop row. Okay, then your break crop row over that is actually, I'd have to map it out, but it goes back over your original wheat rows, and then you follow that. So you always have your wheat rows or your cereal rows going over your break crop rows, and what you do is you end up with a 4-year gap between contacting your inoculum. And what you're doing is you're just driving it down all the time. So I think there's ways of playing with that. And this is why we've run into problems with, sorry, I didn't want to talk crown rot. We've run into problems with crown rot because certain things in our system have changed. So crown rot's taken off up north mainly because they're trying to use a chemical in chickpeas and they're worried about washing back into furrows. So it's not uncommon, sow their chickpeas, then they go in and work it shallowly to get rid of their furrows so they can use balance. And they spread their inoculum doing it. And we don't get as much breakdown in a chickpea crop as you do in a canola crop, fava bean crop, because you haven't got the density of the canopy to maintain moisture around the stubble. It's a crown I talk about. My favourite.
How common is that inoculum in the stem? With some of the geodesic fact sheets, they've shown stems above the ground cut off, and this big cotton wool. How common is it? I've seen it tatting. I mean, if you go around and say, well, I want to check every 100 metres, I'll pick up a handful of stubble and cut it off and see if that's in there and see what potential for having ground, right? You know, soft things are pretty.
You've got to be pretty wet for it to actually produce the whole mass to fill the middle of the stem. So yeah, I don't think it's a great indicator. So there's certainly DNA test predictability, and we've worked with them on sampling strategies for crown rot. So actually spiking it with stubble was overcome a lot of the issues there. Or plating to figure out what your actual survival levels are, probably more reliable. Want to go back to yellow spot? No, yes, there. Okay. I guess the first step is really making sure it's yellow spot. These are just samples that come in. So what we do as a pathologist, we get a sample in, we cut leaf segments, we put it in what we call a humid chamber. So we cut the segments up, put it in a petri dish with moist filter paper. Basically, you can get the fungus to sporulate within 48 hours. Then we can look at those under the microscope, and they've got distinctive conidia. And that's how we definitively can say that spot was caused by this fungus. You can't do that. Well, you probably could, yeah. Anyway, first thing, tick some boxes in terms of yellow spot. It's got to be wheat stubble visible. It mightn't be last year's, or it might be the year before's. But you've got to be able to see wheat stubble. If it's buried or burnt, then you've got to wonder where it's coming from. The other thing is, you've got to see these fruiting structures. So if you look around, and you can even go where you've got more symptoms, look at the stubble that's lying there, you'll see these fruiting structures. Even after they release, they'll still be there. There we go. You can pass that around, mate. Well, you can't miss them, can you? The other thing too, just do this. Rub your finger across them. Because there is other little black spores, but the thing with those is they feel a bit abrasive. They feel a little bit like sandpaper. That's the microscopic spines on the top of those spores. You're rubbing those off as you knock them with your finger, so probably by the time it gets around here, you might feel it quite strong.
You wonder what I'm talking about.
That's 2013 stuff as well, though.
Does any of this stuff come off barley grass?
You can get, not yellow spot doesn't know. You can get net blotches will host on barley grass, yeah. Yeah. You'll see the same thing. You should see So what's the issue there is more is they'll get infected off your barley stubble and you'll get production.